Now, a big move in the US dollar underway to the downside at this point in time. No real news to try and explain it that I can see on my screen. Aussie dollar's up and about. It's gained about 0.5% now, above 65 US cents. The Kiwi dollar also up 0.2%. Also the euro and pound adding about 0.4% as well. Yeah, big move underway, but yeah, really interesting to see what's behind it. Helping certainly to go and spark a rally in E-minis. SPOOs are up 0.2% as well to go and try and get across exactly what may be going on. Let's go and get an expert in the space. Nick Twidale, standing by on the desk here from FP Markets. Nick, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Have you got any idea what's going
on? I think like most of the market, no, I haven't. I think what we're seeing at the moment is there is a lot of, there's not much liquidity in Asia. And over the last few weeks, we've seen some really quite volatile moves. And I think the market's aware of this. So you're not seeing people holding on to positions too long. You're not seeing traders very comfortable sitting in the middle of ranges that will hold on to that position. So if the market senses there's a weakness on one side, they're going for it. And I think that's all we're seeing, as you said, but it's moving in percentages rather than where we'd used to see maybe 10 or 20 pips at the most in our session. Now it's going 50 or 60.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the Japanese yen as well. It's almost steady for the other session, which is the real turn up for the books. Let's go and producers, get the first chart up. We'll go and get the other British pound, GBP, because it's been really interesting. That's the Aussie dollar. We get the British pound chart up. It's really interesting at the moment. That movement last week to the downside that we saw, there it is on the other daily chart. Was that a capitulation moment in your view?
I believe so. I think that was, and we called it a crash at the time. I think that was it. I think it sort of got a tap. It already come off 400 points pretty much from the Friday afternoon to our Monday morning. And then Asia, liquidity in sterling's never great. And then I think because you'd seen so much volatility on the Friday session, I think we just sort of got someone coming in, giving it a bit of a tap, probably from the fund side of things. I don't think it was real money, and it just exacerbated. I think it's what we were just talking about. You're getting much bigger moves in the currency because there's that fear and uncertainty out there. So maybe on a regular trading day in normal trading conditions, you might have seen sterling get hit maybe 100 points tops.
Yep. We
got 400 points very, very quickly. And talking to guys sitting on the desks, there was nothing there. There was really not much stopping it. And that's why we saw a relatively quick bounce as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it got down to around about 1.035, I think was, around, depending on which service you use there. So obviously up 10 big figures now. We know where the support is for the time being. To the upside, what are we looking at the levels?
Well, I think that's why I've left that sort of that longer term support line that was in. I think that forms resistance now, and there'll probably be a little bit of that consolidation level underneath 120. And now we can't be very accurate on those levels. You're looking at charts like that, instead of being within 10 or 15 points, we're probably talking 50, 70, 80. I think it's not a bad rally to fade at the moment, mainly because we haven't seen as hard a rallies in some of the other currencies. So when we got that move, we were around about 108 in sterling, and euro was sort of hanging around sort of 98. Euro went down to the 96s. So I think there's a fade of this move if we still get the same move in the big dollar.
Let's go and have a look at the Euro daily, if we could, producers. And that's a really interesting one. It's not moving to the same beta to what we're seeing when it comes to the pound, but certainly really influential when it comes to the broader dollar index as well. So what are we looking at here, Nick? Which way are we going to break?
So I think this is the daily chart. What we're really going to be looking at is that dollar number on Friday. What we got last night was probably more reasons for the Fed to stay hawkish, and I think most commentators are sticking with that hawkish stance from the Fed. If you're looking to follow a hawkish Fed, then I think you start to fade this move to where that sort of resistance trend line comes in, and it's got a lot of touches on it, so I think it's a very valid one, especially on the dailies.
When it comes to, if you had no other information, just the actual technicals there, given where it's come from, where it's heading at the moment, which direction is it more likely just based on that technical side?
You have to say down. It's in a downtrend. It's been in a downtrend since, we can look back from there, like Q2 2021. Take away all the fundamentals, all the other things we should be looking at, you'd be fading this move.
Let's go have a look at the Swiss franc. CHF, we don't go and come across it much on the program, but yeah, it is still a proxy when it comes to risk appetite. People do like to go and use it. So what are we looking at here, Nick? It looks like a bit of consolidation. Very choppy as well.
We don't normally look at it, do we? But I thought we'd throw this one out there because it's actually behaved very well on those longer term technicals. So if you see where we had that sort of former resistance line, it was a fantastic break. And it's hit that top side resistance 2 times really well for big moves. And it's sort of used the former resistance as support on the way down. So, here, I think we're in a bit of no man's land. Euro Swiss has had big moves as well, but the SMB is a little bit more comfortable with that Euro Swiss move because Euro's so much lower against the rest of the basket that they're looking at. But it's just very interesting. Swiss traditionally was a nicely technical trading currency, and I think it's sort of moving back that way. But we really do need to look at what's going on over there in Europe and those fundamentals from the Fed first.
Yeah, of course, we'll see what happens with the European winter as well, and how that goes and plays out when it comes to economic activity. But play that range accordingly for the time being. Looks like it's pretty much entrenched for the time being. Let's go and finish off with the Aussie, and we've got a couple of charts here. Let's go and start off with the hourly chart, if we could, producers, because just give a bit of a sense as to where we're sitting at. And I've got to say, not a lot is going on at the moment in the Aussie.
No, I think that was one of the reasons and obviously it's our local currency,
Yep.
so we're all interested. It's been pretty boring relative to cable and probably relative to euro, but it is once again in a downtrend. That is against the dollar. We know the dollar's strong at the moment. It is king of the hill. RBA was very interesting this week. I think that gave us that move. The interesting thing, I think, strangely enough, I probably should have been throwing the crosses out here because we did get a lot of movement on the crosses. Aussie is subdued. So if you look at all those other currencies, we've seen them come down, we've seen them move higher. It's actually trading quite nicely for those low beta traders.
Let's go on. We'll go zoom out now and have a look at the daily chart. And that maybe tells a bit more of a story as to what we're looking at this point in time. Obviously, we're breaking through that long-term support. Where do we go to?
I think we're still fading rallies, to be honest, in the Aussie, and it comes back to that big dollar. It comes back to what we got from the RBA. Just look at those interest rate differentials. Global growth, we are a key correlator with global growth and what's going on in China as well. So I think you take all those big fundamentals into consideration. I'm talking lower, and we've just talked about how it's just jumped 30 or 40 points. So
yeah, in Asia liquidity before non-farm payrolls.
Exactly, yeah. We've got non-farm payrolls. I think they're going to be even more important than they normally are this month.
Just having a look at some of the data that's coming out as well. Hong Kong S&P September PMI 48. That's contracting, not a good sign when it comes to that economic hub in China. Also looking at the trade balance here locally. Still a big trade balance, 8.3 billion or so. That's down though on what the 10.1 billion figure expected by the median economist forecast. Exports up 3%, imports up 4%. We'll get into the details in the big picture. Nick, just to go and finish off, you talked about the big dollar. We know that the euro is very influential given its weighting in the DXY. Are we any closer to knowing whether we might have seen the top for the DXY? And it seems to, really after last week, one of those trends again where it may have been a bit of a capitulation move coming on.
I think we've got to go back with the big dollar. We've got to go back to the Fed, and we've got to go back to this data. I mean, there were a few stories earlier this month that you might see the Fed following the RBA. I'm not a big buyer of that one. I think the numbers we get, especially on Friday, that's going to give another advice of where the Fed goes. If it is strong, then I don't think we've seen the top yet.
Okay.
I think there's a little bit more in this story, maybe for 3 to 6 months. After that, I think that's when we could start to see the base fundamentals change.
Yeah.